Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be going over Dr. Stevens from the Paging Dr. Stevens event. As a maxed out S-Class, I'm going to be showing you some gameplay, but also giving you some ideas of what I think would be good combat mods to use on him and the sort of weapon that would also be good for him. So first things first, we're going to look at his rush and his active. I've been asked to do this with every character when I can. I would say maxing out his rush is very much what you should do. Maxing out his rush is the big deal. That is what he's going to bring to the table. Lots of damage. It's also going to bring a little bit of buffs to himself. Not too amazing when he is on a defense team, but a little bit of something extra. Maxing out this rush is very important. It also brings it down to 66 AP, which means he can potentially get a little bit faster. Just if he gets attacked, he doesn't have to gain as much AP as a 76 AP character would, and he could get commanded or get it naturally on an earlier turn because of this. Now when it comes to his active, while it does do a lot of things and naturally he can do it turn 2, the one thing it doesn't do is give him AP, so he will effectively lose a turn in terms of AP gain, and he will not do his rush naturally turn 3. It would be a natural turn 4 rush on defense, or it'd have to be commanded. It's up to you whether you think this is a good idea to do. It does do a lot of things. He's buffing himself quite a lot, and also the cleanse is pretty nice. And the potential of infection attack teams out there right now, that could actually be quite useful. But right now, the way the game's set up is when you upgrade an active skill, you can't downgrade it again. So it is a one-way system. And for now, I would say hold back until you've tested him out thoroughly, a lot more than I would have had the times to do, to see if it is worthwhile you actually upgrading his active skill. For instance, you could upgrade it to grade 7 and then it'll be a natural turn 3 active skill. If he has his rush on turn 3, he will always prioritize his rush over his active, and then he'll do his active turn 4 anyway. However, if you do his active to level 8, it will be a turn 2 active, and like I said, he will lose a turn for his first rush. Now when it comes to combat mods, for Dr. Stevens, you can see the real issue with his stats is his HP, and that's what we're going to aim to boost between his mod set, and his weapon. We need to get a couple of thousand on there as a base stat. If we do want to use him on a defense team, we're going to have to get him up to at least 5,000 defense and 5,000 HP to have any place on a defense team without getting the leader buff. So because of that, I will use HP set. That does give the lowest boost of HP versus an actual HP mod. The HP mod can go up to 1,350 now with the platinum mods, but HP set can go up to, I believe, 750 if you have a full platinum setup, 650 if you have full gold. And we'll start with the top left hand corner first. Now it really depends on your weapon in terms of what mod you give this guy. If you are going to go with a defense bonus weapon, you want to give him HP here. If you're going to go with a HP bonus weapon, you want to give him defense here, because he will not get defense boosted by anything else except a leader skill, so you will need to boost that a little bit. The weapon I'll be using on Dr. Stevens here will actually be a HP percentage weapon, so I'm going to be using defense as the mod, and as you can see, his defense has been boosted to over 5k, so what we were aiming for in the first place. The top right hand corner is pretty easy. Defense against strong is kind of obvious just because he is a fast character. He's going to take extra damage against strong characters, so that's something that you want to actually protect him against. Now you could base this on the type of team he's going to be actually on. For instance, if he was off trait, or if he was on, let's say, an Angel or a Mercer team, you could theorize that you're not going to be attacked by strong characters as much. However, if you were going to use him on an Aaron team, I definitely say defense versus strong is the way you want to go. If he was on an Angel or Mercer team, I would say you maybe want to go for defense against tough instead, just because there are so many tough damage dealers out there. Now in the bottom right hand corner, this really comes down to what sort of team you're going to put him on and what sort of team you think you're going to be attacked by. If you think you're going to be attacked by a lot of strong characters, stun resist is very good. If you think you're going to be attacked by lots of tough characters, potentially impair resist could be good. You could also try and protect against the first turn control. For instance, Dr. Stevens the 6-star, you would need impair resist and you would need taunt resist in that situation. I think it's generally a good idea to actually do double resist on defense team characters, especially if you are gearing them heavily defensively anyway, just because there's so many ways you can get controlled. You want to try and stop the most utilized ones if possible. Stuff like stun, taunt, and confuse is now coming in a bit more, and basically you've just got to decide which ones you want to do. You could mix it up between your entire team. You could make your entire team very resistant to stun, very resistant to confused. It's completely up to you. But for me, I'm going to select stun resist for the time being, just because if I was to use him in an Aaron team, strong characters are something that I try and defend against. Now when it comes to the auxiliary mod in the bottom left hand corner, I would probably go with AP drain, and this is because Dr. Stevens brings pretty much no control to the table. As a defense team character, you want generally to have some sort of control on the active, the rush, the weapons somewhere. Because he's a fast character, he doesn't have any potential control, except there is a kind of rare weapon that you can get from 4-star weapon tokens, which would be impair on attack, but he would be a massive window. Or you could get impenetrable defense, which is the upgraded version of absolute defense, which can potentially slow opponents when he is attacked. That wouldn't be that big a deal, so I do think AP drain is kind of required to make Dr. Stevens a little bit more effective. He is going to basic attack quite often, and that means that the AP drain has more chance of actually happening. Now in the wild card slot, where you can go with another stat, another defense or attack versus, another resist or another auxiliary mod, I would go for another resist mod, just because, like I said, control is very, very detrimental to a defense team's chances of getting things off. You know, rushes are very important. It's all about rushes in this game. If you can't rush, you're in trouble. If you're stunned, you can't rush. If you're impaired, you can't rush. If you're taunted, you can't rush. If you're confused, you can't rush. If you put a couple of resists against those 4 key controlling factors, you're going to give yourself a bit of a better chance to actually survive. I think taunt resist is probably the best one you can put in, just based on the fact that I think a lot of people will be running Princess on pretty much all their attack teams, as she's so important. Her normalized mainly, but the fact that she can taunt and can control 3 for 3 turns is insane. If you can resist that, even though he will be normalized, his damage will still be pretty high, just based on the fact that he has got a very high damage dealing rush, and he could potentially take out certain characters on attack teams. Although him not being normalized would actually be more ideal, I don't think Dr. Stevens is a priority target for princesses on attack teams. If you've got other priority specialists, it comes down to RNG whether Dr. Stevens will be hit or not. However, it doesn't matter if he's hit or otherwise if he is taunted. There are, of course, more characters that can actually do taunt, so that's why I think taunt resist is a good pick. If in the future a certain strong character or fast character comes out and you are using him on an Aaron team, if you are using Dr. Stevens on an Aaron defense team, and then in the future a certain fast or strong attacking character comes out that has something like, let's say, confused, that is heavily going to be utilized, you could potentially want to swap in a confuse resist instead for taunt resist or the stun resist. Again, it's up to you. It's always worth getting your faction to test out your defense team, and you of course as well testing out as much as possible and seeing where the weaknesses are. So we have hit apply on these mods, and you can see the HP is still extremely low, and that is because obviously I did not go for a HP mod, I went for a defense mod, and that's because I know I'm going to be putting a HP percentage weapon in his hands. Now for the base weapon, I would definitely go for a 30% defense weapon, or in my case a 30% HP weapon, because like I said, I left his HP quite a bit low. This gives you the best starting block for a defensive weapon, as you're getting a high amount of percentage stat into a defensive stat. HP and defense, very important for keeping characters alive on defense teams, obviously. This Beater's Careful Crowbar is in the 4-star weapon tokens, I believe, and it is one of the only fast weapons that actually gives 30% HP. It is a harder one to come by, so if you don't have this to give the HP percentage bonus to Dr. Stevens and you need to use one of the defensive like ice picks, you would want to give him a HP mod instead. So I did choose Beater's Crowbar as the base, and this is how I went with the upgrades. I went for impenetrable defense. That means that when this character gets attacked, they have a better chance to reduce the damage to 0, just like absolute defense, but they also have a chance to apply a 20% slow to the enemy for 2 turns. And this is that small amount of control factor that I was talking about that you could potentially get with Dr. Stevens. I went for a huge bonus to AP when attacking, and I obviously got very large. I upgraded the HP then to 35%. And then I made it a 5-star weapon. Once I made it a 5-star weapon, I went for the fast healing. Up to 2 teammates, you regain 10% HP per turn for each fast teammate on the team. This is great if he's on an Aaron defense team because you're more likely to have more fast characters. For instance, Aaron himself as the leader. If you have got him on an Angel or Mercer defense team where he can be utilized, you may not have other fast trait characters on that defense team, so it might not be as useful there. I then just maxed out the HP as much as I could. I did 2 times 5% add-ons and managed to actually get them to hit both times at 5%. So the weapon looks pretty juicy, and as you can see, his HP got boosted to over 5,000 as well as his defense, which was already over 5,000. This is without a leader skill. This is just the weapon and the mods. So that will get boosted even further behind, let's say, an Aaron on a defense team. So if you have got Aaron as your leader, his stats will then get boosted once more to 6.7k HP and 7.1k defense. That's a bit harder to break down for a defense team character, and he still has quite high attack. He has the same sort of base value as Arav does with his attack stat, and he will get it boosted every turn because of his specialist skill. At the start of every turn after his first turn, he gets a 20% attack boost. That means at the start of turn 2, he'll have 20% extra damage. The start of turn 3, he'll have 40% extra damage, and that's generally when he's going to be rushing. And considering his rush is an 800% hit, he's going to be hitting very, very hard against what would be generally quite flimsy attack teams. You don't normally have defensive stats on your Priya attack teams or even your Ivanova attack teams. So just to show you the kind of damage that he would potentially be doing, we're going to just line it up so that he will get a turn 3 rush, and as you can see, he's got a 20% buff after his second turn. We'll just do a 2 attack so we don't actually get the defense boost, and you'll see him do his rush, which should be happening with a 40% boost, as you can see. That is a huge amount of attack output that he did, and if you just compare it to Aaron's here, Aaron's doing nothing in comparison. The attack stat difference between the two isn't that different. You know, we're talking about 1,000 difference. It's just because Dr. Stevens has 800% hit on his rush, and he also has a 40% bonus, and now he's getting extra bonuses. If I attack with Priya again, you'll see basic attack damage start doing quite a lot. He will also boost himself once more just because of that active skill. And again, I'll attack once more and we'll see what happens. What sort of damage output is he? He did 1,500 on a basic attack. So potentially quite good damage output, even though he doesn't have very good offensive stats. So we are going to use a command on the defense team now, and we're going to just attack Rick first, and then we'll attack Aaron to try and give him AP down. And this is just to guarantee the command onto Dr. Stevens to see the sort of damage output he can get with a turn 2 command. He has only got a 20% attack boost here, but you saw him do 4.6k damage. He is of course going to lose a turn because of this, but what should happen is he should still get the boost from having his turn. Let's see if he goes up to 40% attack here. So he does still get this specialist update on a roll, even if he doesn't take his turn by either being commanded the turn before or being controlled by taunt or confuse. If he is stunned or impaired, on a roll does not work obviously, because he will be reset down to 0% and he will not gain any turn bonuses in that time. Another leader you could potentially use for Dr. Stevens would be Jackie, but in this situation you would see that his HP gets boosted a little bit more than it did when he was with Aaron, but his defense is extremely low. So this is where a defense percentage weapon could come in useful, or just heavily piling on defensive mods. It is always generally a good idea to have a percentage weapon that is the same as the percentage bonus from a leader skill, because they do multiply with each other and you can get a little bit extra stat out of it that way. So in this sort of situation, I would pile in all on the defense with mods. A defense stat mod and a defense set. Now in terms of a team that I think Dr. Stevens would work on would be an Aaron defense team. I think behind a Frost he can be very good, because he's going to get the time to get that on a roll going, and also he is actually quite a dangerous prospect to deal with on a defense team. It does look like command is a good idea to use with him if you manage to get your hands on S-Class Rick, perfect, but a 6-star can be decent in the meantime. And lastly, I think a character like Princess is just ideal all round. She's got a second turn heavy control. She has got very high damage herself. This does create another priority target on the defense team along with Dr. Stevens in terms of the amount of damage output they can do. And you can gear them both very defensively and they'll still have a heavy impact offensively just based on their kits. So those are my ideas for Dr. Stevens when it comes to his combat mods and also his weapon. in terms of getting what I think would be quite a heavy usage out of him. You can see his damage output is still very, very good, and it's a mixture of two things. His kit is actually quite good to boost his damage because of his specialist skill, but also his rush does huge amounts of damage, and attack teams which he's going to come up against don't have much defensive stats. That overall combination of things means Dr. Stevens is going to be one-shotting a lot of characters, particularly tough characters. He doesn't have any bonuses to attack on his combat mods. He doesn't have attack versus or anything like this. That was a bonus trait damage effectively. That was all the only bonus he's going to get. But a lot of people do roll around with heavy attacking teams. And if Dr. Stevens, for instance, got another teammate, let's say Aaron, giving 15% extra attack and 35 crit, the output of Dr. Stevens would be further boosted. My main recommendations overall would be to just not update his active skill until you're 100% certain it's going to work ideally for your defense team, and to try and balance out his HP and defense stats after getting both weapon and leader skill boosts. Hopefully this is going to be of some use to you guys. You can sort of see how useful he is on a defense team. I think he is mainly a defense team character. On an attack team, you could make him offensive. He is only going to be taking out one character at a time just because his rush is only single target. On a defense team, that's not too bad. On an attack team, that can be a little bit slow. Also, on an attack team, that's all he would add to it. He'd never buff himself because all of those buffs only happen when he's on a defense team. But if you have any thoughts on how to mod Dr. Stevens, the kind of weapon you think would be good for him, please leave your thoughts in the comments. I always read through your guys' ideas. Remember, this is just my opinion. You guys can have completely different opinions. If it works, it works. That's how the game works. It isn't one way is the only way. People can have different thoughts and ideas and different theorizing processes, and as long as the outcome works within the team, the individual character works out, then hey, happy days. But I want to thank you for tuning into my video, guys, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.